Welcome to part 2 of the homemaking skills. In my last vlog, I showed my farmer's market haul where I bought some peaches. So today I wanted to make some peach preserves. So with my knife, I do a cross at the bottom of the peach and had a pot of boiling water, and then I put those peaches into the boiling water. I don't fill my pot with a lot of peaches. I do a couple at a time. And this is primarily for me to blanch the peaches so that the skin can easily come off. I then prepare a dish with some cold water and I put some ice, an ice bath. After 30 seconds to 1 minute, I then take out the peaches and I put them in the ice water so that I can be able to peel the peaches. I then peel the peaches and then cut them in half, remove the pits, and then cut them into chunks because I want to make preserves. So jam is typically smooth, but preserves are chunky. So that is what I am going for. And then I also take my canning pot and then I put in some water, boiling water, so that I can then sterilize my jars. In canning, you either hot pack your fruit or your veggies or you cold pack. So in the instance for what I'm making today, it's going to be hot packed. So I need to make sure that I prepare my jars so that by the time I'm done and my preserves are still hot, then I can hot pack them into those hot jars. So I think that is something that you need to know, an important step when you are canning. To the cut peaches, I add a cup of sugar and then I add the juice of 1 whole lemon. My lemon was medium sized. I then stir everything in well and then I simmer up until the desired consistency. Can use less sugar. I actually did not use the sugar that I saw in the recipe. It called for more sugar. I used my own discretion and I opted for 1 cup of sugar and I used about 13 peaches. So it's not really the sugar that sets your preserves. It's actually the acidity and the water bath canning. I reduced the sugar. I didn't use. So you might be amazed if you go and search recipes, you will find that they call for more sugar. I just used my own discretion. At this point, I ladle the preserves into the sterilized warm jars using a funnel. And then after that, I had the lids sitting in some hot water. I'd leave it in the water so that it can actually help with the seal. I then take the debubbling tool and I debubble. You need to take out the bubbles. And then after that, I took a kitchen towel, dab it with some vinegar. You can use a damp cloth to wipe the rims of the jars so that there is no any food residue on top of the jars because that will affect the seal. And then I also have a little bowl with the lids in there. I did use new lids and then I take them out with a magnetic tool just to put them on there. And you can see that I'm checking because I don't want to make a mistake because it is possible for you to take 2 lids and put them on 1 jar. So I was extra cautious with that. And then my entire canning kit I got from Amazon. And then after that, you screw on the rings finger tight. Just make sure that your rims are clean. And then you center the lid onto the jar and secure it with the ring finger tight. Remember, finger tight means that you are not tightening your rings with force, because if you turn it too tightly, it will prevent the air bubbles from escaping, and this will give you either trouble with sealing or your food might just spoil. And then after that, you are going to gently place your jars into the canner And just make sure that you are not putting your jars directly into the pot, because this might shatter your jars. You need to make sure that you use some sort of a rack. So I have a rack at the bottom of the pot, and then I place my jars in there. And then I will also fill up. If I see that the jars are not completely immersed in the water, then I will add some hot water. And then you will only start your timer once your water reaches a rolling boil. Then you will process for 10 minutes. So once you see that your water is reaching a rolling boil, then you set a timer for 10 minutes. That's what we call the processing time. Once the timer is done, remove your lid and allow cooling for about 5 minutes. Then use your jar lifter to carefully lift your jars and place them on a towel on the counter. On my counter, I put a wooden chopping board. Then on top of it, I put a towel on there, and then that's where I place my jars that I'm lifting out of the canner. And then I would leave them there to sit for 24 hours. You can actually do 12 hours to 24, but I actually left them for a whole 24 hours. Then after that, I want to then check if I can remove the rings, and I have a successful seal. And yes, it was very successful. The seals were on there. It sealed beautifully, and I could remove the rings. And then now I can place these in my cupboard or on a shelf. I don't have to put them in the fridge. And these can last me a good 18 months if I leave them unopened. And then the other one that I didn't can, because I had half a jar, we then had that one on pancakes, on toast with some cream cheese and the peach preserves, and wow, amazing. I don't prefer syrup now on my pancakes. I actually love it with peach preserves. Now my peaches are preserved. I don't have to have spoiled peaches because I didn't eat them in time. Now let's go on to making some mozzarella. This is an easy but messy process. If you have gloves, I would advise you to use your gloves. So this is mozzarella without rennet. It is only 2 ingredients if I'm not counting the salt. So you need raw milk. I put a 2 liter of raw milk into a pot, and then you're also going to need a quarter cup of vinegar to that. Set your heat to low or medium. You don't want the milk to heat up too quickly. So then you're going to gently stir the milk so that it heats up evenly. And then if you have a thermometer, this will really help you, but I didn't have the thermometer. And you can still do the recipe without a thermometer. You just need to know the hotness it needs to reach. So you're looking for hot that is not extremely hot, but hot to the touch, almost like your bath water. So once your milk gets hot, then you add in the quarter cup of vinegar, and then you mix in your vinegar. Immediately it's going to almost start to curd. Once you start to see the curds forming, just close your pot with a lid and just leave it undisturbed for 5 to 15 minutes or even 20 minutes. After your waiting time is up, it's time for you now to gather the curds. So you can use a spoon or a spatula, and then you bring the curds to the side against the pot. Make sure to just fish around for the curds, because there's some that are going to be at the bottom. And then you gather the curds and separate them from the whey, and then you then have to have a bowl ready for you with a sift on top, so that you can actually pour that whey into that sift and get the curd on top. And then you gather the curds and form those curds into a bowl. Using your clean hands or gloves, remove as much whey as possible and gently squeeze it in your hands. This will press out the whey. You can keep repeating this process several times until you see that there's not much whey left in the bowl of mozzarella. Put back half of the way in the pot and then heat it up again, and then you can add some salt to give it some bit of a flavor, and then take your bowl of mozzarella and put it back into the whey so that it can become hot. You want to do this process so that you can be able to do some stretching, and you are going to be able to form your mozzarella into a ball. So stretch and knead the mozzarella for a few minutes, then you shape it into a ball. You need to do this a step repeatedly, and then once you see that it has formed and it is stretchy to your desire, then you need to put it in a bowl of very cold water. So I put some ice in some water, and then once I'm done kneading my mozzarella and stretching it, of which in this video, to be quite honest, I didn't stretch my mozzarella fully because I think I was doing a lot of things all at the same time. So I ended up not stretching my mozzarella fully, but you stretch your mozzarella fully and then form it into a bowl. Then after that, put it in that cold water. Because if you can see, my mozzarella doesn't look very pleasing to the eye because I didn't do that step very thoroughly. And if you don't do that, then your mozzarella is also going to look like it's grainy because you didn't stretch it and fold it properly when you put it back into the whey. But I've done better mozzarella before, so for me, I wasn't that pleased, but it still worked. You'll see when I use it in the pizza that it did still melt, and it looked like mozzarella even when I cut it up. So you can take a cling wrap at this stage once you've put your mozzarella in the ice water. And then you can use a paper towel if you want to dry it out a bit, but it's not a huge deal. And then put that into the fridge, or you can actually consume it right away. Now let's make some pizza. So you are going to dissolve sugar in 3/4 cups of warm water. This water is not hot at all. It is just warm to the touch because we don't want to kill the yeast when we're going to add it to this sugar water. So after that, you are going to then add your yeast and then leave it for a while. We want that yeast to bubble up, and then it's going to have some sort of smell, and then you'll see it when it looks ready. And then you are going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of salt, and then mix that together. Then you create a well in the center, and then there you are going to put in your 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So we then have to wait for this yeast for it to bubble up, and then you'll see when it starts to form this foaminess on top, that's when you are going to add it to the oil, and then after that you are going to mix in the flour together with this liquid. Don't worry with the measurements, I will link them in the description. So I will have the recipe in the description box. Then you're going to mix this all together until it is well incorporated. And then after that, you are going to cover the dough and put it somewhere where it can proof for 1 hour. I then go in with my hands because I think the spatula is not doing that great of a job. So my hands can incorporate the dough the way I want it to be. So my dough was kind of sticky. It's okay because I knew that when I was going to roll it out, I was just going to flour the counter and keep on flouring my hands. So I knew that I didn't want my dough to be tough at this point because later on I was going to add more flour. So just add some cling wrap to it and then cover it with a dishcloth when you set it aside for that 1 hour. Now let's move along and make some ketchup as we are waiting for the dough to rise. So I took 7 tomatoes, medium-sized tomatoes, And then I just give them a rough chop. It doesn't have to be in any particular size really, because we are going to mash up these tomatoes in the pot once they are softened. And then I also need a yellow onion. You can use a red onion if you would like, but I use one onion. It doesn't have to be a really big one. One medium onion is fine. And then I used also 3 cloves of garlic. So chopped everything up. Also add your garlic to that mixture. And then to that, you're going to add half a cup of water, and then allow it to just cook, and then until your tomatoes are softened. And then that's when we will go in with a masher once they are softened and well incorporated. This doesn't yield a lot of tomato sauce, as you can see. It's enough for you to use for 1 or 2 days. I intentionally made a small batch because I still have store-bought tomato sauce in the fridge, so I didn't want to make a lot of tomato sauce when I'm not going to can it, or I'm not going to use it a lot. So if you are wanting to make a big bottle of tomato sauce, I would advise you to double this recipe, and then you can save it in your bottle, put it in the fridge, but consume it in about a week or so. Or can it, and then you can have it for longer. Now back to the pizza dough. You then remove the plastic cover from the dough. Then you dust your hands with flour, and then you push the dough out so it deflates a bit. You roll out the dough onto the counter. So make sure that you flour your hands very well, because you are working with quite sticky dough. And then at this point, make sure that you have preheated your oven to 180 degrees, and that your oven is nice and hot, so that your pizza can have that nice crust. So then knead the bowl, and then make sure that you roll it out with your rolling pin, so that it can be in the shape of your pizza pan if you don't have a pizza stone. My children love their individual pizzas. My little ones actually feel special when they have their little, it's as if mommy made pizza for them. So I made 2 individual doughs in 2 separate bowls. So the first one that I'm rolling out, I then use a glass, and then I do those individual small pizzas for my little ones, and then I'm going to do also the big one for me and my husband. So for the kids, I usually give them the round ones. So just flatten it out and make sure that it is nicely flattened. I go in with my pizza roller, and then make sure that it is stretched out evenly, and then use a fork to then prick it, and make sure that you have those holes up here in your dough. If you don't do this step, your steam won't be able to escape while you're baking, and then it's going to cause a lot of bubbles and pockets in your crust that will cause this unbalanced surface. So it's better for you to prick your dough and to make sure that that steam escapes while your dough is baking. Make sure you also roll out your dough to your liking. So we like a thicker crust, but if you like a thin base, then make sure that you roll out your dough so that it can be thinner. Now coming back to the tomato sauce, by this time it has softened, the tomatoes have softened, and then we are ready to mash up the tomatoes. If you have a stick blender, then it's time for you to pull it out. You can blend up those tomatoes. Have a bowl with a sieve on top. Pour over the tomato mixture, and then you strain it through that sieve. What is coming out at the bottom is the tomato sauce. So we're going to put it back into the pot to thicken it. But first up, you make sure that you just get all of the liquid out of the tomatoes and that tomato and onion mixture, because that is the liquid that we are looking for. You can just continue and do the step. If you've got a bigger sieve and a bigger bowl, then this step will be quicker. So I do not throw away the tomato, what is left over, that tomato that is left over, I don't throw it out. If I'm cooking that day and I'm making a stew, I will then use it in my stew. But since, well, today I'm making pizza, I am going to also add it to my pizza, and it actually adds a nice flavor to it. We actually love it. So I never throw this out. We want to keep a no waste kitchen, so we find other ways to incorporate whatever we have. So you continue that step and you run through the mixture through the sieve, and then you gather your ketchup at the bottom. Now it's time to put back the tomato sauce back in the pot. We want to thicken it up and flavor it. So I had prepared some lemon juice. So I took a lemon and then made sure that it doesn't have lemon rind or anything in it. It's just the plain juice. And then I go in there with half a teaspoon of salt. I use Himalayan salt. And then also to that, I add the juice of a lemon. I also then add a quarter cup of brown sugar, and then just crack also some black pepper. Wow, this tomato sauce is delicious. It's very nice. If you try this tomato sauce, I kid you not, it's just going to make you not love the store-bought one. It's very nice, very flavorsome. Like the black pepper, the lemon gives it a very nice flavor. I just can't explain it. You just have to try it. Wait for it to cool. Especially if you want to put it in a glass container like the one I have, and then pour it into that. Obviously, you want to store it in the fridge. You will put it in a bottle. I save my all gold tomato sauce bottles because they're glass. I save them, I wash them, I keep them in a cupboard. Whenever I'm making my homemade tomato sauce, I use those bottles because they also have a lid that you can just screw on, and then I use that to put back into the fridge. Now we're moving on to assembling our pizzas. And just to do a taste test, these are first pizzas that I'm making, the small ones for my kids. I actually used the store-bought ketchup. So the ketchup that I'm using here is not the one that I made, but you will see when I when I assemble the second pizza, which is the full one, I then use the ketchup that I made. I just wanted us to see if we can taste it in the pizza. Can we taste the difference in the pizza, or is just the same? And you see here, I cut up my mozzarella. My mozzarella is looking good. The only con is that it is not enough. It wasn't enough. I think I just didn't put enough acidity in the milk, because when I looked at my whey was still looking like milk. So I think I should have just went in and put maybe another third of a cup, because I did a quarter. I should have just went in and did another third of a cup. So if you see like your milk not curding a lot, just add a bit of more vinegar and then leave it to sit longer. I left it to sit for 5 minutes, and actually you're supposed to let it sit for about 20 minutes. Like I said, I was doing a lot of things in the day, and it was already late, and I was rushing because I wanted to make the pizzas with everything that I made from scratch. So I was a bit under pressure, but I honestly advise you to take every step and do it well so that ultimately you are going to have this nice finished product. Okay, so to the pizza, you can see I'm also going to add the leftover tomatoes that we strained out. I'm going to add that to that. I first put ketchup on my pizza, and to make sure that your toppings don't make your pizza soggy, just brush your pizza dough with olive oil. It makes your crust become, crusty, so that the filling on top doesn't make your pizza soggy. And then after you've put your tomato sauce as your base, I like to also add some oregano and some spice. In this case, I used just regular old six gun, and then I just gave it a sprinkle on there. And then this is also a nice way to use your leftover. So I had leftover meat, like brine meat. I took my brine meat, I just chopped it up into small cubes, small little chunks, and then this is what I'm gonna use on my chicken. So if you had grilled chicken leftovers, you can just take your chicken, chop it up, whatever that you wanna put onto your pizza. That's totally up to you. And remember, I had a lot of boxes of my peppers, so I'm going to use my peppers on my pizzas, which gave them a very nice flavor because it is their season. And when it's pepper season, the peppers really taste good. So I put that meat onto the pizza, just fill it up and load it up. And then I'm using different kind of cheeses. I grated a Gouda cheese and I grated white cheddar, and then I'm also going to put the mozzarella. I really don't like grating my mozzarella on the pizzas. I love my pizzas just having pockets of mozzarella, not just grated and then maybe mixed with the other cheeses. I like the other cheeses, and then I like to put the mozzarella on top so that I can have pockets of mozzarella. It's just a personal preference. But obviously, when it comes to pizza, top it up the way your family prefers, top it up the way you prefer, and just go in and enjoy. And that is the final product. As you can see, the mozzarella has melted beautifully, and you can see those mozzarella pockets in the pizza. I baked the pizza for 30 minutes inside the oven. Hope you enjoyed and you're going to try some of this recipe. Leave me a comment and tell me which one you're going to try first. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless you.